And with David Finlay, I come out of it where, yeah, he is now in the spot where it's going to be like, here you are, now it's time to deliver. I don't know if Nic Nemeth is that guy that is the best person to bring that out, but Nic Nemeth could surprise us as well. This was the post-match where Finlay got into his face and they're trading words, and then they end up brawling together and they're separated. And it turns out that when Nic Nemeth was released by WWE, he doesn't get to keep his name, but it turns out that Screaming Dolph, very much of the Nic Nemeth property coming out of this, because we got the Screaming Dolph who likes to scream to emphasize emotion on a pro wrestling program. Are you talking to me?
And it continued backstage here, we should note. Just only about 5 seconds of Finlay talking about his win before he was jumped by Nemeth backstage and immediately dispatched. And then you got, I don't know, about 2 or 3 minutes of screaming Nic Nemeth talking about, the purity and the dignity of pro wrestling and what the global title should be about.
Did he
and
jump
blah, blah, blah.
over the table? Like,
yeah. He wiped him out there.
Christ.
Took him out quite immediately. And it was, as I was saying to John just before we started recording, it was very surreal as somebody who has not watched Dolph Ziggler on television in, I don't know, 6 or 7 years or something like that, to see and hear that particular delivery now happening, in front of like cans of Asahi and, the Bushiroad logos in the background or whatever. It was a very, very strange and bizarre fit. But yeah, the video of his entire, promo that he cut on Finlay / the idea of, indignity and villainy in pro wrestling is up on the New Japan YouTube right now. I mean, my God, if we were talking about the possibility of like, oh, Moxley Ospreay heading into this, we were teased Okada Ospreay at Battle in the Valley, and we're now getting David Finlay and Dolph Ziggler. I mean, I don't know what to say about that.
It's I do kind of feel bad for Dolph, maybe just judging about our reaction. Certainly my reaction coming off of this is it's that here's a guy making his first major move coming off of the WWE after spending, an eternity there. And it's for a program that I can't really get all that excited for. Dolph Ziggler versus Dave Finlay is just not really all that inspiring. Of all the possible combinations that we might be able to see Dolph with, at least, New Japan participants. At the same time, I mean, maybe just be as a feud to appeal to like a Western market. Maybe New Japan feels like this is the best way.
If you wanted the ultimate bang for your buck of just the surrealness that Bruce was just talking about, seeing Dolph in a New Japan setting, dude, like him and Ishii, you just do that match. It's an easy win for Nic Nemeth. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I want to see what that match looks like. I mean, this is just, I don't think David Finlay, Nic Nemeth is the match that people are screaming to see in San Jose or at a later date.
Even a Tanahashi, I think that would always be like a bit of I don't think there are any dream pairings when it comes to, unfortunately, Nic Nemeth and anybody in New Japan. But at least that would have been a bit more of like a, hey, like what is this? I'm going to maybe reserve a bit of judgment to see what some of the promos might be, because that's to me always been Dolph's strength. And in a New Japan setting where he won't be scripted and he'll be able to hopefully speak a lot more at length, maybe using his own creative video packages, whatever, that could make up for it. But as a purely WWE guy throughout his entire career, I don't really know what to expect of him in a New Japan system.
Which is good to have that curiosity as well. And again, we could get certainly some turbulence here where Tama Tonga is going to have to drop this belt at some point, and who fits in there. I mean, is Nic Nemeth going to be strictly New Japan? Is he going to have crossover with AEW? Is this guy going to be doing New Japan and Indies, New Japan and Impact? I mean, there's still a lot of questions about how embedded Nic Nemeth will be as it pertains to New Japan. And obviously, like by design, he's here with his brother, and therefore you would think like they are going to be a part of the tag division while he's also doing single stuff as well. So
it's really interesting because for years, Ziggler was kind of the emblem of like, this is what a successful pro wrestler looks like in terms of what a really, like smooth profitable career looks like, and how different and how the business has changed from somebody who always needs to be protecting their spot and doing God knows what sort of carny BS in order to, keep a stranglehold on the main event or whatever. People have crunched the math and looked at his contracts and said, look at how much money this guy has made just by kind of, being an easy to work with, likable person within the WWE system, right? So we're now at a very interesting point, I think, when we don't know, kind of what he wants to prove or what he wants to show or what his short to medium-term goals are in terms of either, as you're saying, John, in where he might be showing up or in terms of what his actual priorities are. Is this kind of his Danielson or his Moxley, I've made enough money, I just want to do the things I want to do sort of moment, So yeah, like Way, very much like Way, I'm not, going to be rubbing my, palms over this or anything. He has a lot to prove, and we'll see how he fares with it. It's a very interesting pairing right off of the gate here. And it might not be the hottest one, but I do think it is a reminder of just how kind of weird and fun and random and fresh wrestling can be when you do have more lateral movement, when you do have a season like we're going through right now, where there's a lot of contracts that are up, there's a lot of movement, and just how that freshens up the scene, if nothing else.
And if nothing else, I think with New Japan, it's a lot of one-way traffic that we're talking about. So just the idea of someone coming to New Japan, I think that is a message to your average fan that this is not New Japan. I think certainly this is going to intensify with like whatever happens with Okada. But I mean, if an Okada leaves, I mean, that really is telling your public that it's like, can New Japan hold on? Forget the foreigners that it's always kind of thought of like it. They're not here for a long time. They're here for a finite amount, but it's the Japanese talent that are the loyalists that are going to stay here. But you don't want that perception of, once our performers get to a certain level, they graduate and leave for one of the big companies. And by definition, you're not one of those big companies. So that takes us to the aforementioned Okada and Bryan Danielson in their rematch from Forbidden Door. I didn't understand Okada.